Is traditional SAP consulting dying? How Joule and Agentic AI will change. SAP in 2025. For years, SAP consultants were told the same thing. Learn your module, gain experience, and you'll always be needed. But in 2025, something uncomfortable is happening. SAP itself is saying, we are changing how work gets done. So the real question is no longer, how do I become a better SAP consultant? The real question is, will traditional SAP consulting still exist? This video is not about hype. It's not about fear. It's about understanding what is actually changing and what is not. The shift nobody can ignore. Anymore for a long time, SAP consulting followed a familiar pattern. You learned a module, a set of transactions, a way of configuring the system projects needed people who knew how to do things inside SAP. And that model worked. Companies hired consultants because systems were complex, documentation was limited, automation was weak. Business users depended heavily on human expertise. But in the last few years, SAP has been sending a very clear signal, not through marketing slogans, but through product direction. Why this question suddenly feels urgent? If this was just another technology trend, most SAP consultants would ignore it. SAP consultants are used to new buzzwords, new frameworks. This will change everything headlines. Most of them fade away, but this time feels different. Why? Because the change is not coming from outside SAP. It's coming from SAP itself. When SAP talks about Joule, AI-assisted configuration, agentic workflows, automation of reasoning, they are not talking about add-ons. They are talking about how work inside SAP is done, and that directly touches consulting. What people are actually afraid of but rarely say. Let's be honest. Most SAP consultants are not afraid of AI in general. They are afraid of very specific questions. If AI can configure faster, what happens to my role? If AI can analyze processes, where is my value? If SAP becomes self-explaining, who needs consultants? But because fear is uncomfortable, many people do one of two things. One, they dismiss it as hype too. They catastrophize and assume everything is over. Both reactions miss the point. The real risk is not AI. The real risk is misunderstanding the shift. Traditional SAP consulting, what are we really talking about? Before we talk about the end, we need to be precise. Traditional SAP consulting usually means heavy focus on configuration, deep knowledge of transactions, manual process analysis, human-driven system navigation, reactive problem solving. Consultants were valued because they knew where to click, they knew which table to check, they knew how SAP behaves. This knowledge took years to build, and for a long time it created a strong career moat. But moats only protect you as long as the environment stays the same. Why SAP wants to change this model? This is the part many consultants don't want to hear. SAP does not exist to protect consulting careers. SAP exists to serve customers, and customers want faster implementations, lower dependency on scarce experts, fewer manual steps, more predictable outcomes. From SAP's perspective, reducing complexity and dependency is not a threat. It's a goal. Joule and Agentic AI are designed to reduce friction, guide decisions, automate repetitive reasoning. Not to replace humans entirely, but to change what humans are needed for. That distinction is critical. The difference between replacement and redistribution. Most people think in binary terms. Either consultants disappear or nothing changes. Reality is more nuanced. What usually happens in technology shifts is not replacement, but redistribution of value. Some tasks lose value, some tasks gain value, some roles shrink, some roles evolve. The danger is not being replaced. The danger is staying in the part that is shrinking. Why this feels personal for SAP consultants. SAP consulting has always been built on expertise. You invest years learning details, understanding edge cases, building confidence. When a system starts helping with that expertise, it can feel like the ground is moving under your feet. That emotional reaction is normal. But reacting emotionally instead of analytically is how careers get stuck. This video is not about defending the past, it's about reading the direction correctly. A calm but honest observation. Here is a calm truth that is hard to accept. Some parts of traditional SAP consulting will become less valuable. Not because consultants are bad, but because the system is becoming more capable. That does not mean SAP careers are ending. Consulting is dying. Experience is worthless. It means the center of gravity is moving. And anyone who wants a long-term SAP career needs to move with it. Why 2025 is a psychological turning point? 2025 is not magical because of a date. It's psychological. This is the moment when AI stops being optional. AP embeds intelligence into daily workflows guidance becomes native, not external. From this point on, pretending nothing is changing becomes more dangerous than adapting too early. What this video is and is not. Let's be very clear. This video is not AI will replace SAP consultants. Everything you learned is useless. Switch careers now. This video is an honest analysis, a mindset reset, a preparation guide. The goal is not panic. The goal is clarity, setting the stage for what comes next. In the next part, we'll strip away the buzzwords and talk very concretely about what Joule actually does, what agentic AI means in SAP terms, which activities change and which don't. No marketing language. No exaggeration, just reality. If traditional SAP consulting feels threatened, that doesn't mean it's ending. It means it's being challenged, and challenges don't end careers. Ignoring them does. Part 2. What Joule and Agentic AI actually change. No buzzwords. Clearing the noise. First, before we talk about impact, we need to remove the noise. Right now, the SAP ecosystem is full of big words. AI-powered, Copilot, agentic workflows, intelligent automation. Most of these terms are used loosely. That creates two extreme reactions. This is just marketing. This will replace everything. Neither is accurate. So let's slow down and talk about what actually changes in daily SAP work. What Joule really is and what it is not. Let's start with Joule. Joule is not a chatbot that replaces consultants, a magic tool that understands your business perfectly. A system that runs projects alone, Joule is best understood as an intelligent layer that sits on top of SAP workflows and guides actions. Instead of forcing users and consultants to remember steps, navigate screens manually. Search documentation, Joule helps by explaining context, suggesting next steps, surfacing relevant information, automating repetitive reasoning. This is not about creativity. It's about assistance at the point of work. Why this is a big deal in SAP has always had a problem. Not functionality, but usability and cognitive load. Even experienced consultants spend time navigating menus, checking multiple screens, remembering dependencies. That time does not create value. It's friction. Joule is designed to reduce that friction. And when friction disappears, the value of certain activities changes. That's where consulting feels pressure. From knowing where to click to knowing what matters. Traditional SAP expertise often looked like this: knowing transactions, knowing tables, knowing configuration paths. Joule directly challenges this model. If the system can guide navigation, explain configuration options, highlight dependencies, then the value of "I know where to click" decreases. But something else increases in value: knowing why a decision matters. Joule does not replace judgment. It exposes the need for it. What agentic AI actually means in SAP terms. Now let's talk about the more confusing concept: agentic AI. Agentic AI does not mean autonomous SAP systems running companies alone. AI making strategic decisions independently. In SAP terms, agentic AI means systems that can take a goal, break it into steps, and execute actions across systems within defined boundaries. Think less robot employee and more guided automation with intent. A simple example: no marketing. Let's make this concrete. Traditional approach: a user reports an issue, a consultant analyzes logs, the consultant checks configuration, the consultant proposes a fix, the consultant implements it. Agentic AI-assisted approach: the system detects a pattern, suggests possible root causes, proposes resolution options, flags risks and dependencies, executes approved actions. Notice something important: the human is still there, but their role changes. They move from executor to reviewer, decision maker, risk owner. Why this changes consulting workflows? This is the real shift. Consulting used to be human-driven execution system as a passive tool. With agentic AI, system becomes active, human becomes supervisory. That flips the skill balance. Execution speed matters less. Decision quality matters more. What tasks lose value? First, let's be very honest here. The first tasks to lose value are repetitive configuration, standard setup activities, rule-based troubleshooting, documentation-heavy analysis. Not because they disappear, but because they become faster and cheaper. When something becomes faster and cheaper, the market stops paying premium rates for it. This is not unique to SAP. It happens in every technology shift. What tasks gain value at the same time? At the same time, other activities gain value. Framing the right problem, deciding between alternatives, understanding business trade-offs, managing risk and change, aligning technical options with strategy. These were always important, but now they become central. Why? Because AI can propose options, but it cannot own consequences. The hidden shift: from knowledge scarcity to context scarcity. This is a key insight. For years, SAP consulting was built on knowledge scarcity. Few people knew the system well, documentation was fragmented, experience was hard to replicate. AI changes that. Knowledge becomes more accessible. What stays scarce is context, accountability, responsibility. Knowing something is no longer enough. Being responsible for outcomes is what differentiates. Why this feels threatening to many consultants. Many consultants built their identity on being the expert, knowing more than others, being the go-to for details. When the system starts assisting with those details, it can feel like identity loss. But this is not about removing expertise. It's about shifting where expertise shows up. Expertise moves from screens to decisions, from transactions to trade-offs. What Joule and Agentic AI do not change. This is just as important. They do not understand company politics, manage stakeholder emotions, decide priorities under pressure, take responsibility for failure. They do not negotiate scope, calm a frustrated business user, balance speed versus risk. These are human problems, and SAP projects are full of them. The mistake of overreacting. Some consultants respond by trying to become AI experts overnight, abandoning SAP depth, panicking about relevance. This is usually the wrong move. The goal is not to replace SAP knowledge with AI knowledge. The goal is to combine them. AI amplifies good thinking. It exposes shallow thinking. A more useful way to think about the shift. Instead of asking, will AI replace SAP consultants? Ask, which parts of my current work are becoming easier to automate, and which are becoming more important? That question leads to strategy. The first leads to fear. Preparing for what comes next. Understanding. Joule and Agentic AI is not about learning tools. It's about understanding where value moves. And value always moves away from routine, repetition, execution toward judgment, responsibility, synthesis. SAP is simply catching up to that reality. Closing thought of part 2. Joule and Agentic AI don't end SAP consulting. They end one version of it. And they create pressure, but also opportunity, for another version to emerge. The next part will make this very concrete. We'll talk about which SAP roles are most exposed, which roles are strengthened, and where new opportunities appear. No speculation, just structure. Part 3. Which SAP roles are at risk, and which are not. Let's remove the wrong. Question first. Most people ask the wrong question. They ask, which SAP roles will disappear? That framing creates fear, not clarity. A better question is, which SAP roles are built mainly on execution, and which are built on judgment? Because AI does not replace roles. It replaces patterns of work. And roles that are mostly execution-heavy are naturally more exposed. The most important rule to understand. Here is a rule that applies not only to SAP, but to every technology shift. The closer your value is to execution, the easier it is to automate. The closer your value is to decision-making, the harder it is to replace. Keep this rule in mind. Everything else will make sense. Functional consultants, a role at a crossroads. Let's start with functional consulting because this is where most SAP careers begin. Traditional functional consulting often focuses on configuration, process mapping, requirement translation, testing support. Parts of this role are clearly exposed. Why? Because standard processes are well known. Best practices are documented. Configuration logic is increasingly guided. Joule can already explain configuration impacts, suggest settings, highlight inconsistencies. This reduces the value of pure configurators, but here's the nuance. Functional consultants who deeply understand business trade-offs, ask the right questions, challenge unclear requirements, guide decision-making are not at risk. They actually become more valuable. The role splits into two paths: configuration focus to pressure, business decision focus to growth. A BAP and technical roles. Not safe, not dead, just changing. Now let's talk about technical roles. Many people assume technical roles are safest. That's only partially true. AI can already generate code, explain logic, detect patterns, suggest fixes. This affects simple reports, repetitive enhancements, standard interfaces. But again, context matters. A BAP developers who focus only on syntax, execution, isolated coding will feel pressure. But developers who understand performance implications, design scalable solutions, collaborate with functional teams, think architecturally become strategic contributors. Coding becomes faster. Design becomes more important. Basis and system roles. Fewer people, higher responsibility basis, and system roles are interesting. On one hand, automation increases, monitoring becomes smarter, routine tasks shrink. On the other hand, system landscapes grow, cloud complexity increases, integrations multiply. This creates a paradox. Fewer pure operators, more need for system thinkers. Basis roles evolve from keeping systems running to designing stability and resilience. This role doesn't disappear. It compresses and matures. Integration and BTP roles. Strengthening, not shrinking. If there is one area clearly gaining importance, it's integration. Why? Because landscapes are more fragmented. AI works across systems. Data flows matter more than screens. Integration consultants who understand CPI, APIs, event-driven design, cross-system logic are well-positioned. Agentic AI does not reduce integration complexity. It depends on it. This role shifts from connector builder to integration architect project managers. Pressure increases. Value increases. To project management is not immune. AI can help with scheduling, reporting, risk detection, but that does not replace project managers. It removes administrative noise. What remains and grows is stakeholder alignment, conflict management, decision ownership, pressure handling. Bad project managers will struggle. Good ones become even more central, because when automation accelerates work, mistakes become more expensive. Solution architects, one of the safest paths. Solution architects sit at the intersection of business, technology, integration, long-term design. AI supports this role but does not replace it. Why? Because architecture is not about single decisions, isolated logic. It's about trade-offs, long-term impact. System coherence, AI can suggest. Architects decide. This role becomes more important as systems become more intelligent. Pre-sales and advisory roles. Quietly growing pre-sales and advisory roles often get overlooked. But they gain importance when solutions become complex, expectations must be set early, AI capabilities must be explained realistically. These roles rely on communication, framing, trust. AI does not replace trust. It increases the need for clear explanation. The role that is actually at risk. Let's be very direct. The most at-risk profile is not a role, but a mindset. The profile that struggles most is task-focused, instruction-following, execution-only, context-avoiding, regardless of module. Someone doing only, tell me what to do and I'll do it, will feel pressure. Someone asking, why are we doing this and what happens next, will not. Why titles matter. Less than behavior. Two people can have the same title. SAPMM, consultant one is exposed. One is growing. The difference is not the role, it's how they operate. AI exposes shallow roles, not deep ones. A pattern seen across projects. Across many SAP projects, the same pattern repeats. Junior execution gets automated, mid-level coordination becomes critical, senior judgment becomes scarce. This is not a threat. It's a rebalancing. The hidden opportunity. Many miss. When execution becomes easier, consultants have more time. Time to think, observe, connect dots, understand impact. Those who use this time well move up naturally. Those who don't feel left behind. What this means for you, personally. The right question is not, is my role safe? It's, which part of my role creates value that AI cannot? That answer defines your direction. Closing thought of part 3. AI does not flatten SAP careers, it reveals them. It shows who executes, who decides, who understands impact. And in that clarity, new career paths open. Part 4. How SAP consultants must evolve. Skills, mindset, positioning. Why skill lists are no longer enough. When people talk about future-proof skills, they usually make lists. Learn AI, learn cloud, learn BTP, learn integration. Lists feel productive, but they miss something important. SAP careers don't break because of missing skills. They break because of outdated positioning. In 2025, it's not about what you know. It's about where your value sits in the project. The shift from doing to owning. Traditional SAP consulting rewarded people who executed tasks well, followed instructions, delivered configurations. That world is fading. The new center of gravity is ownership. Ownership means you understand consequences, you anticipate problems, you are accountable for outcomes. AI helps with execution. It does not take responsibility. That gap is where consultants must move. Skill number 1. Framing problems, not just solving them. AI is very good at solving defined problems, but it cannot decide which problem matters, which trade-off is acceptable, which risk is worth taking. Consultants who grow are those who can reframe vague requirements, ask uncomfortable questions, slow down rushed decisions. This is not technical skill. It's thinking skill. And it becomes extremely valuable as AI accelerates everything else. Skill number 2. Business impact awareness. In the past, many consultants could survive by saying, "That's how SAP works." That excuse is losing power. Today, value comes from answering, what happens to operations if we choose this? How does this affect reporting, compliance, cost? Who will feel this change first? I can explain configuration. It cannot own business impact. Consultants who connect system decisions to real-world consequences become hard to replace. Skill number 3. Decision literacy. This is an underrated skill. Decision literacy means understanding options, evaluating risks, communicating trade-offs clearly. In AI-supported systems, options multiply. Someone still has to decide. Consultants who can say, "Here are the options, here is the risk, here is my recommendation," and why naturally move into senior roles. Skill number 4. Working with AI, not against it. Some consultants try to ignore AI, others try to compete with it. Both approaches fail. The strongest consultants learn to use AI to accelerate analysis, validate AI suggestions catch, AI blind spots translate AI output into decisions. AI becomes a force multiplier, but only for people who already think clearly. Mindset shift. Number 1, from expert to guide. Many consultants built identity around, "I know more than others." That identity becomes fragile when systems explain themselves. A stronger identity is, "I help others make better decisions." Guides don't lose value when tools improve. They gain it. Mindset shift number 2. Comfort is a warning signal. In the old model, comfort meant stability. In the new model, long-term comfort often means stagnation. If your role feels too predictable, it's a signal to broaden exposure, sit closer to decisions, understand adjacent topics. Growth becomes proactive, not reactive. Positioning. Where you sit matters more than your title. Two consultants with the same title can have very different futures. The difference is proximity to decisions, exposure to complexity, responsibility for outcomes. Position yourself where ambiguity exists, trade-offs are discussed, mistakes are expensive. That's where AI needs humans most. A simple self-check. Ask yourself honestly, do I mostly execute or mostly decide? Am I asked what to do or what I think? If AI speeds up my tasks, do I gain time or lose relevance? Your answers show your direction. The role of continuous evolution. This is uncomfortable but true. SAP consultants who stop evolving don't suddenly fail. They slowly become optional. Evolution doesn't mean switching roles every year. It means expanding perspective, deepening judgment, increasing responsibility. AI makes this unavoidable. Why this is actually good news. Here's the positive side, Knight. AI removes boring repetition, mechanical work, low-value tasks. What remains is thinking, guiding, deciding for consultants who enjoy impact. This is an upgrade, not a threat. Closing. Thought of Part 4, the future. SAP consultant is not the fastest executor, the deepest configurator. The future SAP consultant is the clearest thinker, the calm decision maker, the one who understands impact. And that role is still very human. Part 5. The calm truth. SAP is not ending. It's shifting. Let's address the fear. Directly at some point, every technology shift creates the same fear. Is this the beginning of the end? SAP consultants are asking that question now, not loudly, not publicly, but quietly. Because when systems become smarter, people naturally wonder where they fit. So let's answer this honestly, without hype. SAP has ended many times before. If you've been around SAP long enough, you've heard this story before. ECC was the end of SAP consulting. S/4, HANA was the end of SAP Consulting Cloud. Was the end of SAP Consulting Low-Code was the end of SAP Consulting. And yet, here we are. Not because nothing changed, but because consulting adapted. What ends is never SAP. What ends is a version of how people work with it. Why SAP consulting still exists. SAP systems don't exist in isolation. They live inside organizations, politics, regulations, budgets, human behavior. No matter how intelligent systems become, companies still need people who can translate goals into systems, manage trade-offs, handle uncertainty, take responsibility when things go wrong. I can assist. It cannot own failure. And ownership is what consulting is really about. The real difference between ending and shifting. When people say this role is ending, what they usually mean is the old way of creating value is shrinking. That's not an ending, that's a shift. In SAP, execution shifts to automation guidance, shifts to AI decision ownership shifts to humans. The center of gravity moves, but it doesn't disappear. Why this shift actually filters careers. This is the uncomfortable truth. AI doesn't destroy SAP consulting. It filters it. It filters out passive execution, shallow expertise, role hiding, and it rewards clarity, judgment, responsibility, adaptability. This makes SAP consulting harder to fake, harder to coast in, but more meaningful for those who stay relevant. What a healthy long-term SAP career looks like now. A healthy SAP career in the AI era is not about choosing the perfect role, predicting the future perfectly, locking into one specialization forever. It's about staying close to value, understanding business impact, evolving with system capabilities, knowing when to move us and when not to careers become directional, not linear. The consultants who will struggle. Let's be clear. The consultants who struggle most are not beginners. They are not seniors. They are the ones who stop learning, stop questioning, stop expanding perspective. They stay technically busy while becoming strategically invisible. AI doesn't replace them. It simply makes that invisibility obvious. The consultants who will thrive. The consultants who thrive are those who stay curious, understand context, think beyond tasks, take ownership. They don't fight AI. They don't worship it. They use it as an accelerator, a mirror, a filter, and they reposition themselves accordingly. Why 2025 is not a deadline. It's a signal. Nothing dramatic happens overnight. 2025 is not a collapse, a reset button, a cliff edge. It's a signal that SAP wants less friction, customers want more speed, systems are becoming more intelligent. Those who read the signal early move calmly. Those who ignore it feel rushed later. The most important perspective shift. Here's the mindset that protects SAP careers long term. You are not valuable because SAP is complex. You are valuable because businesses are complex. SAP complexity may reduce. Business complexity does not. And that's where humans stay relevant. Ask yourself this. If AI handles execution, what remains? If tools explain systems, what's left? If configuration is guided, where do I add value? The answer is not technical, it's human. Judgment, context, responsibility. Those don't get automated easily. Traditional SAP consulting is not dying. It is growing up, moving away from mechanical execution toward thoughtful decision-making. Those who grow with it will find their careers not shrinking, but sharpening. If this video helped you think more clearly about where SAP is going, then it did its job. Not to scare you, not to hype AI, but to help you position yourself calmly and intelligently for what comes next. If you want a clearer SAP career roadmap that reflects real projects and real change, you'll find everything linked below.